Welcome everyone, those that are watching online. Tonight's story is going to be in English, so all of you could also listen in and understand. Okay. The story starts with a great tzaddik by the name of the Alter Rebbe, Reb Shneir Zalman of Liadi. He was a very special tzaddik. He wrote the Tanya and the Shulchan Aruch. One time, the Alter Rebbe was traveling. He was going from city to city, from town to town. He was raising money. He would come to a city and he would ask all the people in the city if they could give some money because he wanted to help poor people out.
Daddy, also there's a story.
We're maybe going to do that story after. And he was...
when he was learning, that was a lot of years in.
Right.
And then
That's a different story.
Wagon, and then he went to jail, and then he went to Tanya,
Right.
and with candles.
So this is after he was going from city to city and he was raising money, collecting money to help people that needed money. And he came to one city and he was collecting money because there was a very poor family who they owned an inn. An inn is a kretschmer, a small hotel. Upstairs in the hotel, people would sleep. They had a few bedrooms. And downstairs, they had a bar. It's like our restaurant. And they gave people mashke, and they said l'chaims, but they didn't really say l'chaim. They just drank it without a bracha. And the family, they lived on the third floor. And every single month, they had to pay rent to the owner of the whole property. His name was he was a partners. No elevators in those days. His name was Ivan, and they have to give Ivan money for rent every month. And one time this year, the winter was so cold and there was so much snow and people weren't traveling, so people didn't come to their inn. They didn't stay in their rooms. They didn't pay them any money, and they didn't buy anything to drink or eat. So they had no money to pay the rent. And when it came time, the end of the month, they had to pay the parents. What was his name again? Ivan. Very good. Ivan came and he said, "Where's my money?" And they said, "We're so sorry. We don't have the money because no customers came. We didn't pay us, so we can't pay you." And he said, "I don't care. If you don't give me the money by tomorrow, I'm going to take you and your family and throw you into a dungeon." And guess what? He came, and the next day, and he took them into a dungeon. So the Alter Rebbe was traveling from city to city to collect money to give to Ivan so that he'll let this Jewish family get out of the dungeon. He needed 200 rubles. 200 rubles is a lot of money.
How did the parents didn't know?
No, the Alter Rebbe found out. And then he came to the city.
But how did the parents don't know? How do you say the parents didn't know he was going to take them out of the dungeon?
He told them, if you bring me the money,
How do you say it was in
aferd. If you bring me the money, then I'm going to let them go out of the dungeon. So the Alter Rebbe comes to the city and he says to the heads of the Jewish community, "Give me a list, please, of all the Jewish people in the city and their addresses, and I'm going to go to every house and knock on the door, talk, 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 and they're going to open up and they're going to say, yeah, and I'll tell them there's a Jewish family that couldn't pay their rent and they're thrown into a dungeon, and I want to give Ivan money so he'll let them go free." It's a very big mitzvah to help a Yid go out of jail. So they said, "Of course we're going to help you." And they took a paper and they wrote Mr. Weiss and Mr. Goldberg and Mr. Feynman and Mr. all the names and their addresses, and they gave it to the Alter Rebbe. And the Alter Rebbe looked at the page carefully and he said, "Is everyone on this page?" And they said, "Yeah." The Alter Rebbe looked again and he said, "Are you sure?" And they said, "Yeah." Are you positive? And they said, actually, there's one more person, but we didn't put him on the list. There's no point to put him on the list because he never gives any tzedakah. He doesn't give any help, any charity to anyone that asks. Never. So we don't need to waste your time.
Who is he?
He is, we're going to call him David. And David is very stingy. He doesn't give anyone that needs help. And the Alter Rebbe said, but there's a family in jail. We have to get them out. And they said, well, if you're going to go, the Alter Rebbe said, put his name on top of the list. Put it on the very top of the list. I want to go to his house first. So the Alter Rebbe went with 2 other people from that city. And they walked down 2 blocks, and then they made a turn right on the next corner, and they went 2 more blocks, and they came to this big, huge mansion.
The mansion.
Mansion is a very, very big house. It's like a mini palace.
It's like this big.
Yeah, almost. And there was a long, long sidewalk to go, and then there was a gate with 2 doors. And the Alter Rebbe opened the door of the gates, and he walked all the way up till the mansion. He went up the steps and he knocked on the door. Tuck, 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 tuck. And the door opens up, and there's a Yid standing there, and he says, yes, can I help you? And the 2 Yidden that came with the Alter Rebbe from the city, they were starting to feel uncomfortable because they knew that this person is not going to help him. And the Alter Rebbe said that there's a family not too far from here that couldn't pay rent, and the Paretz, Ivan, he threw them into a dungeon, and I'm raising 200 rubles to get them out of the dungeon. Can you please be so kind and help us? And this Yid, this David, said, sure, I can help you. Wait right here. And he went into his house, and he came out, and he gave them in his mansion. In the mansion, right. He came back, and he gave them 1 penny. It's in Russian, it's called a kopek.
What's a kopek?
It's a Russian penny. He gave them a kopek, and he said, here you go.
How many rubles was it?
A kopek is not even 1 ruble. It's like a penny. And it's not nice to give. So the Alter Rebbe needed 200 rubles, and he gave them 1 kopek.
1 cent.
Right. It's like a cent. So, you know what Alter Rebbe did? He smiled, and he said, thank you very much for doing this mitzvah of giving a kopek. Hashem should bench you, and you should have everything you need. You should be healthy and happy, and a lot of nachas. And he turned around, and he walked down the steps, down the path to the gate where he came in from. And all of a sudden, he heard shouting, Rabbi, 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 come back. And the Alter Rebbe turned around, he walked back up the path, back up the steps, and David, that Yid from the mansion, was still standing there, and he said, how much did you say you need? And he said, 200 rubles. Well, now 200 rubles minus 1 kopek. Wait here, I want to give you some more. And he went back in, and he gave him 1 ruble. And the Alter Rebbe took the ruble in his hand, and he said, thank you very much, Rabbi Yid, for giving this tzedakah. You're doing a big mitzvah to help this family get out of jail. Hashem should bench you. You should have everything you need, and you should be healthy and happy and have nachas.
Both times he says that.
Both times he said it the same thing. And he turned around and he walked down the path. And as he got to the gate, he heard someone screaming, Rabbi, Rabbi. So he turned around and he walked back up the path, back up the steps. And David said, come into my house, my mansion. Come into the living room. Tell me what you're collecting for. And again he told him, there's a family. It's a father and a mother and 2 boys and 3 girls. They live in an inn. They work in that inn. And they have to pay rent. But because it was the winter, they didn't have any customers and they couldn't pay rent. And Ivan, the Paretz, threw them into a dungeon, and now he's all stuck. They're stuck in this dungeon. I have to give 200 rubles to Ivan. So he said, wait here. And he went out of the room and they heard some noise, turning of a safe. A safe is very secure. It's like a dresser, but it's locked. You can't break it and you can't schlep it. It's very, very heavy. And inside you put valuable things. And they heard the safe opening and he came back out. He had it in a room next to the living room. And he came back out and he said, I want to give you all of the money that you need, 200 rubles to get them out of jail. But let me tell you a story.
He's gonna give the
Yeah,
penny.
this is...
He's gonna give the 2 pennies to the pirates.
Yes. This is a story in a story. He said, I want to tell you a story. Many, many, many years ago, I was very poor. And I was working in a marketplace. And in this marketplace...
Was that true?
Yeah, it's true. I was working in a marketplace, he said. And all I had was like one tiny little coin. It was maybe a kopek. It was a 5-cent piece. And I was so tired. But a poor man walked by and he said, could you help me? And I put my hand in my pocket. I felt so bad for him. And I gave him that 5-cent coin that I had. And he took it. And he threw it back in my face. And he said, I don't need your lousy kopek.
He threw it to the miser?
Yeah. But this was when he was still poor. And he said, I was so angry. I said, from now on, anyone that asks me for money, I'm only going to give them a kopek. Until they tell me thank you. And you know what happened? The next person came, I gave him a kopek. And you know what he did? He threw it back in my face. And I started to work more. And then I wasn't poor anymore. I became very rich. And I bought a little house. And then I bought a bigger house. And now I live in this big, huge mansion. And every once in a while, people knock on my door and they say, could you help us? There's a poor family or someone needs money for a shul, for a yeshiva, someone's stuck. Could you give some charity? Could you give some tzedakah? And I always say, sure. And I go and I give them a kopek. And they throw it back in my face. They say, you're such a miser, you're so cheap. And then they stopped coming to my house because they know I don't give them any more money.
It still started.
That's right. But now, you are the first person in so many years that I gave this kopek to, and you said, thank you very much. You did a big mitzvah. Hashem should bench you. So I said, whoa, I don't believe it. And I went back and I gave you a few more rubles. 1 ruble. And then you said, thank you again. Alter Rebbe. Yeah. And you said, thank you again.
What's Alter Rebbe?
He's in this person's living room and he's telling him the story. Right? It's a story in a story. And I decided, because you said thank you, I gave you again. And now I gave you the whole amount. And I want to tell you something else. From now on, I'm never going to be cheap and miserly again.
Yeah, but nobody knows.
Well, you should go and tell everyone that if anyone needs help, they could come to my mansion and knock on the door and I'm going to help them.
But
And this miser became a very, very big baltzedakah, a very generous person who was helping everyone that needed, even sometimes without them asking. If you heard about a family that was poor, or you heard about a hospital that needed more money, or you heard about a school that he always went, and I'm not sure, he always went and he would help them. And you know what the lesson of the story is?
why do we need money for school?
To pay the teachers, to put on the lights, to buy books.
Yeah,
So-
not everybody knows. Only the workers that fix
Right.
stuff.
Huh?
For the workers
To
do
fix stuff, right.
light bulbs.
What's the lesson from the story?
I don't know. I think I know.
What?
That you should always help people.
Should always help people, very good. And even if someone does something that's maybe not so nice, you never know. Alter Rebbe said, there must be a reason. And he said, thank you. What do you think the lesson is?
That you should never do the come on and have ours.
Very good. Never take revenge, never do nakama, and have Avos Yisrael.
Nobody
Very, very good. Kinlacha, gute Nacht. Have a good night.
knows
All those that are watching online, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoy. You're welcome to put some comments, share, subscribe. and stay safe and healthy.